Oh, how are you?
I'm pretty good.
That's good, man. Where are you at the moment?
I'm in Saudi Arabia. I've
Oh,
been
nice one.
here for almost 2 weeks,
Oh, sweet.
and it's fight week next week. Fights next Friday, so it's been pretty good so far. Here to adjust to the time zone and to get settled in. But we started off in Ireland, had a good camp there. Now we're here. We're here to finish it all off.
Nice one. Is it your family over in Saudi Arabia with you, or do they stay back?
I flew when I flew to Ireland to start the camp. I went with my family, wife and kids. And when I was getting ready to leave Ireland after about 4.5 weeks, they went back to New Zealand,
Oh, yeah.
and I came here with Andy and George, and now my brother's flown up. So we got a good group of us here, and there's more coming this weekend, which would be great
Yeah,
from New
no,
Zealand.
awesome. Must be good to have your family with you during camp. I know it's been a long time
I
away
think it's
from.
the best. I think it was one of the best camps where I was able to train hard, rest, did everything right, but I was able to see them every day after training. And I feel like moving forward is probably what I want to continue to do to go with the family into camp and be able to see them every day. And because the hardest part about fighting, I feel, is the being away from the family, missing out on seeing your kids every day, and and everything. Like my wife is a soldier, and she takes care of all the kids, but on her own when I'm in camp. So a lot of credit goes to her for the work she does behind the scenes.
I see. How old is your oldest now? Because I guess like that'd be different, like right from your I guess rise to the title the first time, and now you're backing
Yeah,
up.
listen, my oldest now, she was born the year I won the championship of the world, 2016. So now she's 7 years old. I got four girls, and I got another baby on the way. So I got 7 years old, 5 years old, 4 years old, 1 years old, and then another baby should be here in April.
Oh, nice one. Congrats.
Thank you, bro. They just keep coming.
And we spoke last year. How's the Jolene challenge going? Is that still on?
Since we done it that time last year, I haven't done it since. And I guess sometimes when we're training, and I don't really have. Back then, I had good training, but I didn't have the most structured training. And every now and then, you could chuck in. It was like the training was sort of sporadic, and you could chuck in these challenges anytime you wanted. But now that I have George Lockhart, nutritionist, also strength coach and recovery coach, and I got Andy Lee, boxing trainer and head trainer for camp. These two they gel very well together, and there's no like all my energy goes into what I need to do. And if I'm not doing like the strength work, if I'm not doing the boxing training or whatever it is they want me to do, I'm resting. And I think I've I've actually realized I've realized after all these years of fighting that the rest is just as important as, if not more important, so you can get the most out of your body when you're training. And it took me a while to learn this. Back then I would train and I'll go out and go bowling, go play pool, and just do activities. But all of that's energy being put into other things.
Yeah.
So even though I enjoyed the Jolene challenge last year or whenever it was that we did it, but now I'm saving all my energy for when I need it the most.
And I suppose, yeah, I think that ties in probably to a few things I wanted to ask you about. Like this kind of feels like the almost like the second coming. You had your first run to your title, and now it's like I don't know what it is. It feels like, yeah, like a almost like a rebirth, like a second sort of heavyweight career for you. Is that like fair to say for you?
I think I feel it's fair to say that it's like like a rebirth and sort of like you said, second coming in. The first part of my career was great and amazing, and I did wonderful things with Q and Barry. We won the title together, and it's going to go down in history as the great partnership that we had. But then finding Andy Lee through Tyson Fury, and then what tops it off is having George. I feel like everything now is the most balanced and the most scheduled, and it's like the most perfect camp and setup and situation that I've ever been involved in. And when I look around at other camps, I don't want to compare or anything, but I see my camp as being a great camp because it's not a lot of people. There's not a lot of people with different opinions saying you should do this or you should do that, you should eat this or you should eat that. Andy and George look after everything. Andy being the top trainer, and then George like helping with everything else. They complement each other, and it's I feel like now it's because I found this balance. I feel like everything is heading the right way in terms of training, fitness, skill, and we're seeing good results in the ring.
And I know, I think you linked up with Andy Lee after the Junior Far fight a couple of years back. Um, but then I was thinking back to you had the fight in Melbourne last year, and it was like a really good sort of first round knockout that it felt like it kind of kick-started like a really good year for you last year.
I linked up with Andy after the Junior Far fight, and that was a great sort of link up because it was new, it was refreshing. I was training in Ireland, and most all the other camps had been in Vegas. But with the Django fight, I only started working with George Lockhart and Andy Lee together 6 weeks prior to that fight. That's when George came on board. And since then, we've had Django, we had Simon Keane, we had Wilder, and now we're on to Zhang. So it hasn't even been a year since I've been with George Lockhart. And I know when you talk to Andy, Andy will mention that George has done great work behind the scenes and outside of camp because I'm always in shape. I'm always eating correctly. I'm always training. And then when I come into camp, I have the fitness to do what Andy wants me to do. So I think that's sort of where it started back from, the Django fight in Melbourne.
Oh, nice. And I guess like the result as well, like a huge first round knockout win, headline pay-per-view card kind of thing. Like it was a big moment. Like it felt like a big moment, and then to see you like at the end of that year beating Deontay Wilder. Yeah, it felt like a really sort of key moment that Django knockout.
I feel that's why I keep saying to the no limit guys in Australia, the boys, the brothers, I keep thanking them because that's where it all started. And also, like I felt like that's where we've had the sort of the second coming and the kickoff, with George and Andy together. And since then, George was only committed to me for that fight, and then and he was always committed to working with Tyson because that's where I met him from. I met him through Tyson Fury doing his nutrition, and I think Tyson didn't need him after that fight. So then I took him to New Zealand for 10 weeks, and we just built weights, conditioning, aerobic capacity, anaerobic threshold, VO2 max. We've done like all of these things that I've never even experienced prior to linking up with George and Andy. Andy's like a great teacher in boxing, and Andy can tell you combinations and show you punches and show you. But I think it just complements having George doing the strength work and controlling that sort of things.
Nice. And then yeah, like you say that was the kickstart, but then you get this Deontay Wilder fight, and I think most people, I think the plans were, Joshua wins the fight at the top of the card, and people thought Deontay Wilder beat you, and it'd be
Yeah,
Deontay and AJ.
they
What
already had the Joshua Wilder fight signed
so it was
before that event even happened. I was like, I'm not listen. I don't know the details of it, but I heard from someone it was like a 2 fight deal, mega money, and they had the fight already signed, and they just needed to win the fight in order to make that big fight happen. And well, for me and George, Andy, John, Pastor, everyone in our team, all we were focused purely on was the fight. And even though there was a lot of noise happening before the fight about this fight and that fight, we're just focused on enjoying ourselves and training hard, resting well, and doing what we had to do.
you feel like a little bit of, I don't know if disrespect is the right word, but there must have been something going on, like, man, they've already got the fight signed after I'm fighting Deontay
A lot
Wilder.
of people said, "How did you feel? Do you feel disrespected because they already signed the fight?" I said, "There's always things in boxing that are already planned even before events happen. Like not only that fight was signed, but there's many other fights that people are looking at and already talking about, and deals being made before even fights even happen. So I didn't feel any disrespect. I just felt like it's boxing business, and everyone they all try to make these big fights happen. But um, I guess it was great to be able to spoil the party and get the win, and now it's given us another big fight in Zhang. who's coming off two great wins of Joe Joyce, who beat me. So I feel like styles make fights, and that was a great night for me and not for Wilder.
Where does that one rank in terms of all your wins and everything you've achieved in your career? You obviously won a world title and defended it. Where does that one with that win
I,
rank?
listen, because of I feel like the world title was massive. Like it is massive. Winning a world title is what every fighter wants and dreams of. And for me, that was the special moment in my career, winning the world title. But when you look at the Wilder fight and the eyes and the viewership that was on the fight, and also what it meant moving forward and being highly ranked again, I feel like this fight sort of took number one because of the situation that we're in and everything else that was around it.
Was there ever a moment in that fight where you're like, yeah, we got this? Like, yeah, obviously, Wilder's powerful, he can knock you out at any second of the fight, but it was such a complete performance. One of probably your best performance. Like, was there ever a moment where you're like, yeah, we've got this one?
No, only even after the fight, I was like, listen, even as much as I felt like I put in the best performance and dominated, I just felt like this is boxing and anything could happen. So I never want to put my hand up or I never want to celebrate unless the ref or unless the announcer says that I won the fight. Because it's boxing, you never like some fights you've seen and watched where people felt like this guy did enough to win and he took over and then the other guy wins.
Yeah.
So that's boxing business. So even at the end when I felt like yes, I've done enough to win, I'm like, hopefully it's me.
I suppose, especially knowing that they had already plans, right? Like plans to
Yeah, like
definitely,
even if you had plans, like that could have spoiled it.
yeah,
Like, no, it's all right. Listen, we went the distance. Joe looks good, but we still have plans to take care of. So let's just give Wilder the win. Like, I don't know. You just never know.
and like, did you feel different in that fight to say earlier in your career? Like, it felt like, um, I think people have noticed a couple of times in the last sort of year or so that you're much freer, letting your hands go, kind of thing. Do you feel that? Is that accurate or fair to say?
Yeah. Do you know like it's hard to explain, but when you have a great camp and then everything is all lined up, like you've done everything right and you haven't overtrained and you haven't like sometimes in the past I feel like I know I overtrained in many fights. And when people say, why didn't you let your hands go? You can't let your hands go when you overtrain, or you can't let your hands go when you haven't prepared the best you can, or when you've cheated along the way, or there's so many factors that come into it. And I felt like with linking up with Andy and George together, I feel like they've just found this great balance where everything is on point, and there's like things that I haven't done, like listen, monitoring HRV and monitoring heart rate, like, all this other stuff, and I think it's all very important. And it's things that only help improve a fighter. But sometimes when you're taught a certain way for so long, some fighters aren't open to this idea. But I was very open to it. I wanted to change and I want something new and I wanted to improve.
Nice, and you're obviously looking ahead to Zhang. Where do you see that he's dangerous? He's obviously big. He's pretty quick as well. Like, what are the sort of big dangers, I suppose, that he presents to you?
Zhang's got power. I fought Zhang as an amateur. He probably doesn't remember, and I don't really remember because I was coming off a big holiday. Then I got the call. Hey, do you want to go represent New Zealand? Yeah, sweet. I'll go represent New Zealand. I haven't trained properly, not in the best shape, and I went and I fought Zhang and lost on points. But I feel like with Zhang, he's got power. He throws good combinations, and he's got good movement. Even like for a big guy, some people say he's not the best mover, but he does move quite quick, closing the distance, closing the gap, and he's not shy to let his hands go. And in the past, he has been questioned for his stamina, but in recent fights, he's shown that he can go the distance, and he doesn't fade as bad as he did before. So it could be something new for him. Coming in with good fitness, good energy, and good power.
He's 40 as well. Like he's not a young guy. Even though heavyweights, I think you can probably fight till into your 40s. But
Like, yeah.
But
I think like
yeah,
40, like George Foreman won the championship of the world when he was 45,
something like that. Yeah,
something like that. So heavyweights do last longer than other weight classes because we don't. I don't. I feel like with heavyweights, you don't throw as many punches as the lighter fighters, and you don't absorb as many. You do absorb massive ones, but I think heavyweights is the reason why heavyweights do last longer. And even though Zhang's 40, he's still showing in his last two fights that he's still got the ability to catch someone and knock them out.
and I saw again the other day that there's a rematch clause if he loses. Um, not that it's sort of the same as Deontay Wilder and having a contract signed for a fight after you, but how all that kind of stuff. Like, how does that sort of
Yeah,
tie into
like
your?
listen, be nice. It'd be nice to have a fight and then move on, and the winner, whoever wins, moves on to the next fight. But in boxing, when Joyce fought Zhang, Joyce had a rematch clause because he was defending the mandatory position, the WBO interim belt. And that's why they had to rematch, and then Zhang won again. So I see what they're trying to do. They're trying to protect what they've been working on getting for a while now, and now that Zhang's got it, they're trying to protect the Queensbury promotion. So for me, if when they gave you the fight, it's like here's the fight, and you can only have the fight unless we have a rematch clause. And I'm not going to bless them. You go back and forth, and you say we don't want a rematch clause. You're not going to get the fight. So give me the damn fight. Give me the fight. Take the rematch clause. I back myself, and I'll take care of business. So that's where your mindset's at. You don't really, you don't really care about all these other things. You know you can win, and you back yourself, and you take it.
So you win next weekend. Um, Obviously the rematch clause, but look, where does that sort of put you in terms of the heavyweight division? There's sort of a lot of moving parts at the moment, and big
Yeah,
fight, not
a lot of moving
necessarily
parts.
with the belts involved.
Yeah, you got Tyson and Usyk fighting on the 18th of May. I'm hoping to attend that fight, and then I'm not sure what's happening after. Like whoever wins that fight, there must be a rematch clause for that.
Yeah,
Then that'll push it out towards the end of the year. Another big rematch clause between both fighters, so that'll delay it even more. So I feel like after a win with Zhang, it puts me right up at the top. I think top three, top four fighters in the world, and I'll have to beat him again in October or sometime at the end of the year in order to move on. But um, it's all about winning. No matter like I said, whatever it takes to win, it's a must in order to progress and get closer to fighting for a title.
and he said the other day that when he felt when he watched you fight Joe Joyce that you fought scared, is what he said. What
Oh,
do you
sick.
make? You're sick.
So, well, big time, yeah. But I don't say that after the fight because it's an excuse. Listen, I shouldn't have fought that fight being in the condition I was in. I had a great camp leading into the fight, and 2 weeks before the fight, I got really ill. And mentally, when you're in a fight, mentally, you're like, I'm gonna smash this guy. But when your physical body doesn't keep up with your mental, that means it's like there's no point. So after one round, I was already gassed, and I remember coming back to the corner going, "Oh my god, that's not good." And like we're already in the fight anyway, so you can't do anything about it. So it's good. It's good that he's watching that fight and seeing what I did in that fight because it's a totally different fighter from when I fought Joe Joyce. I'd love the opportunity to fight Joe Joyce again, but Zhang's the person now in front of me, and that's my full focus is on him.
Yeah, I suppose just on that, like you fought, some of the biggest stages, AJ in front of I think what 80,000 people, Wilder world titles. Like who, and for the rest of your career, sort of who are the guys that you'd really want to fight or rematch, get one back over on Joshua, or what are the big ones
I've
that?
always wanted, I've always wanted to rematch Dillian White, but I think he's going through a few things at the moment. So it'd be nice to fight Zhang and win, fight him again because I'm contracted to fight him again. And then the Joshua fight would be awesome. I know everyone wants to fight Joshua because it's big money and all whatever, but I want to. The purpose of fighting him is to get that to avenge the loss and Joey Joyce as well. I know that I can do a lot better than what I did with Joey Joyce. But that was his night, and he won, and fair play to him, and hopefully I can get another chance to show something different.
Would you ever fight Tyson?
I don't think so. We've already spoken about this. I mean, listen, if it was for mega money and it was to change my life, he'll probably say, Joe, you know what? I'll do this for you. I'll do this for you to so you can secure your family for the rest of your life and have whatever. But truthfully, like Tyson's like he's treated me no different to his brothers, and he's the reason why I'm getting all these, a lot of it is for obviously we worked hard with Andy and George and got the wins, but he's helped put us in this position with Spencer Brown, who's manages him, David Higgins, and everyone. So he's been a massive help in helping me secure these big fights and paydays.
Nice. And I just wanted to ask you, obviously down here in Australia, we have Jai Opetaia, who's obviously had to give up his cruiserweight title, but just wondering your thoughts on that. I guess the whole situation, but I think most people think he made a pretty good decision, even though he had to give up the belt. He got really good payday and got to fight on a
Yeah,
massive
I
card
feel
like
like
that.
the boxing business is quite crap sometimes. And he's a champion. He's a Ring Magazine champion. He's IBF champion, and they stripped him because they wanted him to fight someone else. So if I was Jai, I would be doing the same thing. You're in the sport to be the best, and he proved that he's the best. And then if they're limiting you to what you can earn, as a fighter, you want to make the best and look after your family. And I agree with Jai and whatever he's done. But look, it's probably made him more motivated to give the belt up. Then he knows he can win it again anyways because he'd already won it before.
Hmm.
But as long as he's been able to look after his family and secure better money fight, I'm happy for him.
How good can he be? Like I know there are talks of him moving up to heavyweight at some point, but like watching him and I guess you know him a little bit. How good can Jai Opetaia be?
Jai can dominate. I think with the heavyweight division, it's a bit hard to say at the moment because he's a cruiserweight, and I reckon once he dominates all the cruiserweights and unifies the belts, then he can do something similar to Usyk and move up to the heavyweight division, and see what he can do here. But he can be. It's all up to him. Like he trains hard. He works very hard, Jai, and I've seen it when he was here in Saudi Arabia. The work that he puts in. He means business. Like there's no mucking around. There's no real playtime for him. It's just he's strictly here for business, and he's focused and he knows what he wants.
Nice. And I didn't actually realize this until the other day, but he made his professional debut on one of your undercards down in Invercargill when you fought Bowie Tupo. When that was 8, 9 years ago. That was his debut.
Was that his debut?
Yeah.
I remember seeing him, and I remember he had a great amateur career, and he won some great tournaments around the world. And I saw him, and that's crazy. Crazy. He had his debut on that card, and now look at him, champion of the world, representing Australia and New Zealand, and doing a great job of it.
And also Jeff Horn was on that card. So he had three world champions on the same card down in little old Invercargill.
Crazy, eh? Crazy how time flies and what's happened in the past and everything.
That's awesome. And just lastly, like I know you guys were on that same sort of card when Jai was having to make that decision to give up the title. Like, did you guys talk about it? Or does he's got his team and stuff? Or
No, he just. Well, did we talk about that situation?
yeah, or I suppose anything to
Not,
do with the
not
business.
really, but like I know that he would have spoken to his team, and for them it was the right move. And I back him and what he's done because listen, the belts are not going to put food on the table. He already won the belt, but you're in the sport to be the champion and to make a living and make an earning. So he made the right move, and I think everyone supports him because you have to. Boxing business is sometimes a tricky business, and sometimes it's sort of like a game. Sometimes you have to play the game.
Yeah. And
And I guess then he gave out the belt. Everyone knows that he's the champion, and everyone's backing him to get it again.
nice. And lastly, last question: how does your fight with Zhang end next weekend?
Oh, I've been picturing catching him. Like listen, he's a strong man. I was just boxing and moving, and then I just picture myself catching him nice and clean. and then rocking him and stopping the fight. But yeah, listen, it's easy to say. You can picture so many things in your head, but when it's in front of you, it's a different story, and he's a tough man. So I just want to go out there and give it the best that I have and win the fight, and go home to my family, celebrate, enjoy, relax, keep building in New Zealand with George Lockhart, link up with Andy, and then we go again.
Awesome, Joe. Mate, I really appreciate your time. Thanks so much for jumping on, and can't wait to watch this fight in a couple of days.
Thanks, Brendan. Good to see you, bro.